Those eyes disguise our hide. Bright lights decide the fight. Your heart beats fast despite the truth that love is blind. I just wanna feel anything, anything with you, with you. I just wanna feel anything, anything with you, with you.
Welcome to the Clean and Filthy podcast with your host, Matthew M.
Hello, and welcome to the Clean and Filthy podcast, where we are clean and serene with a filthy mind in between. My name is Matthew M. I am your host, and I am an addict in recovery. Welcome back, everybody, to the Clean and Filthy podcast. It is episode 34, y'all. We've got a massively stacked episode for you today. We're going to be discussing the chapter 10 of More Will Be Revealed out of the literature. We're going to be doing a 2-week roundup since we missed last week. More on that in a second. We're going to be answering more questions in our Ask an Addict segment, and of course, giving them clean time shout-outs. In fact, we got a double dose of clean time shout-outs because you know we couldn't miss the people from last week, y'all. You know we got to give them shout-outs, and you know, who am I to not be excited to give out some shout-outs? So anyway, before we go anywhere, I have to give a couple apologies first and foremost to all of my listeners and my viewers. First off, episode 33 had some audio issues in the beginning of it. Your boy, after 32 straight episodes of not fucking this up, decided that I wasn't going to mute the YouTube feed because I always keep the YouTube live stream going as well to make sure that I'm connected there and there's no issues. And I forgot to push mute when I started the live stream. So the remix that you heard of the gorgeous, incredible song Anything by Valentino Khan and Alice in Wonderland, shout out Mad Decent Records for allowing that to be the theme music for the Clean and Filthy podcast. But the remix that you heard of Anything on top of Anything with a random all music off and then coming back on, yeah, that was me. I fucked up, y'all. What can I say? I fucked up. It happens. Progress, not perfection. For whatever reason, I forgot to push mute. Don't know why, but I did. So that is why we had a little wonky donkey remix, out of sync, double beat. It almost sounded like I made like a psytrance remix. It's like, yeah, it was all bad. So I apologize for that. Didn't realize till after I'd already published. And at that point, going back and re-editing and it was just a whole thing. Secondly, I have to apologize because episode 34 is a week late. For 33 straight episodes, y'all. We were right on time every single Tuesday, 5 p.m. Arizona time, live on YouTube with episodes available for download later on that evening. And finally, after 33 episodes, Life on Life's term showed up, y'all. And I was lacking physically, my health. I was lacking mentally, my health. And I was not capable, both physically and mentally, of delivering an episode with a level of quality that I feel was necessary for my listeners and my viewers out there, to be quite honest. You know, I'm the type of person who believes in if I can do something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And I had that discussion with myself as my throat was scratchy, my brain was all over the place. That I was not able to make that standard that I've developed within myself, and hopefully you guys have developed for the Clean and Filthy podcast as well. So I very much apologize, but we are back today. We are moderately well rested. We are in pretty solid mental health area, pretty solid physical health area, and have a jam-packed episode for you today. So get ready. We're going to have some fun, and thank you so much for being here. We got to go, now that we got that out of the way, let's do the rest of the normal stuff. So this would normally be where we give a shout out to our sponsor. We are currently sponsorless at this time, but we are always looking for new potential sponsors to develop a relationship with, whether it be for full episodes, segments, product placement, if I vibe with it, all of those type of things. So if you're interested in contacting us about potential sponsorship opportunities, please reach out to me, myself. Best way to do that, email Matthew at CleanAndFilthyPodcast.com or on any social media, and I would be more than happy to give you some more information on that. Also, as I just did, we're going to give another huge thank you to Mad Decent Records for allowing us the privilege of using Anything by Valentino Khan and Alice in Wonderland as the official theme music for the Clean and Filthy podcast. So huge thank you to them for continuing to allow us to use that song. Also got to give a big thank you to our VIP supporters. These are the people on Patreon who are helping support this podcast with donations. If you are interested in becoming a VIP supporter of the Clean and Filthy podcast, head over to the website, www.cleanandfilthypodcast.com. In the top right corner with all of the social media links, we've got our Patreon listing right there. Click on that, head over there, make a donation. And not only will you get one of these amazing Clean and Filthy podcast stickers to display wherever and anywhere that you would like, you will also get a shout out here on air like these wonderful VIP supporters that are Alex B, Sage A, Cindy, Stephanie, Shar, Liana, Clint, and Alex T. Thank you so much for all of your continued support. I greatly appreciate it, and literally it means the world to me that you guys entrust me with your hard-earned money. So I really, really appreciate that. And while you're on the website, make sure that you have liked and commented and subscribed and all of the things to all of our social media. That is where you will be the first to know when something relating to the Clean and Filthy podcast comes live. So make sure that you are liked and subscribed on all of the channels so that you will get a notification every single Tuesday, hopefully, at 5 p.m. that the Clean and Filthy podcast is live on air. For those who don't know, we broadcast live on YouTube.com every single Tuesday almost at 5 p.m. Arizona time. So if you are listening on a podcast directory right now, thank you very much. Thank you for the download. Hopefully you like what you hear. If you do, please make sure to download all our other episodes, share this podcast with anybody and everybody possible, and maybe give us a rating while you're at it. But if you want to participate in the live stream, make sure to head over to YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube page, get that notification bell clicked so you get a notification whenever we go live, and you can participate in the live chat. If you're on YouTube right now, let's get that chat going. I love going back and watching the comments after the episode. It's always a lot of fun for me. So shout out anybody who's on the YouTube live stream right now. And if you are there and you want to help support this product, please make sure to download this podcast episode and all of our previous episodes from any and all possible places that you get your podcast from. I am not opposed to you having multiple podcast directory accounts and giving us downloads because, hey, that's how we grow. And shout out to our new listeners. My goodness, I don't know what happened, but our numbers for the first couple episodes have spiked hardcore. We've done some big movement, and I really appreciate that. So thank you all for all of the continued support. I love each and every one of you. If nobody's told you that today, I myself, Matthew M., loves each and every one of you, and thank you for being here for episode 34. So before we jump into the episode, we have to talk about what we do, what we don't do, and who we are again. My name is Matthew M., and I am an addict in recovery, and this is a Clean and Filthy podcast. We are a 12-step fellowship-based program podcast, if you will. We are here discussing all of the things that us addicts in recovery go through on a day-to-day, minute-by-minute, week-by-week basis each and every day. We are here to develop an understanding of recovery, to develop excitement about recovery. We're here to develop and cultivate a safe place for us addicts in recovery, or maybe those of you out there who aren't addicts in recovery. Maybe you're an addict in active addiction. Maybe you're somebody who thinks that they might need to be in recovery. Well, welcome. I am so glad you're here. Please stick around. Maybe you'll hear something you like, and if you do, make sure to come back every week and make sure to share, download, like, comment, rate, subscribe, tweet, retweet, put me on TikTok, whatever it is. We really, really, really appreciate the support so very much. So that is what we are here doing. But we are not here to replace anything that maybe you already have within your recovery journey. This podcast should not replace going to meetings or having a sponsor or having a home group or working steps or being of service. At the end of the day, this podcast is here to hopefully answer some questions, hopefully entertain you a little bit, and hopefully show that recovery from the disease of addiction is not only possible, but it's something that is very, very enjoyable. So that's what we do. That's also what we don't do. But I also want to make sure to emphasize that in order to stay in line with the traditions, I will not be speaking from any point of authority or identification for any one specific 12-step fellowship. I will not be discussing what my personal fellowship of choice is, or what my personal home group is, or what treatment center I went to, or anything of the sort, to make sure that I do stay in line with the traditions and make sure that we come from a unified perspective on the topic of recovery. So if you have any questions to those type of topics that we will not be discussing right here on air, please reach out to me directly. I would be absolutely ecstatic to be able to assist in any possible way that I can. Again, all of the social media information is listed on the website, www.cleanandfilthypodcast.com, or email me directly, matthew@cleanandfilthypodcast.com. That's how we do it here. So again, thank you for being here. If you're not an addict in recovery and you're like, why am I here? Hang out. We talk about a lot of things, not just 12-step recovery. Maybe you'll hear something that you like. Maybe you hear something that's entertaining. Maybe you'll hear something that keeps you wanting to come back. And if you're already one of those people who's here every week, I thank you so much. I've gotten a lot of very, very positive feedback over the last couple weeks. And not even from like an egotistical perspective, but just knowing that people are vibing with the thought process and the product that I'm really trying to develop here. It really fills me with gratitude. And I'm so incredibly grateful to everybody out there who's been a part of this journey, whether you're somebody who came through, listened to 10 minutes and dipped, or whether you're somebody who's been here since the beginning, 34 episodes deep. I love all of you for being here, and thank you so much. So again, that's what we do. That's what we don't do. That's who I am. And now let's get into our first segment of the week, y'all.
Let's head to the lab for some R&D. Recovery and development.
That's right, y'all. We are in the lab for some R&D, recovery and development. This is the part of the show where we discuss either a step, a tradition, a spiritual principle, a piece of the literature. Pretty soon, we're going to be developing some interviews with other addicts in recovery during this segment of the show. This is definitely the most recovery-focused part of this podcast. But as I always say, the beautiful thing about the 12-step recovery model, the beautiful thing about recovery in general is it's not just about not using drugs. So if you're somebody out there who's like, man, I don't use drugs, why the fuck am I in this podcast right now? Hang out. Just chill. Chill for a little bit. Maybe you'll hear something you like. I always say drugs were simply a symptom of my disease of addiction. And my disease of addiction can manifest in so many ways other than simply the use of drugs. So if you're here right now and you don't use drugs, I ask you to hang out. there might be something you hear that maybe helps in some way in your life. And if it does, I hope to see you next week. And I hope that you share. Share. All right. So for the first 12 episodes, if this is your first time here and you're like, wow, I'm jumping in at episode 34, welcome. Thank you. But I highly recommend going back and checking out some of our previous episodes, because episodes 1 through 12, we talked about steps 1 through 12. And episodes 13 through 24, we talked about traditions 1 through 12. And since then, we have been going into the literature. We've been taking a deep dive into the literature, working through each chapter, sharing some quotes, sharing my personal experience, strength, and hope with each one of these chapters, and giving a little bit better understanding. So we are officially in the last chapter of our first piece of literature, y'all. Again, to make sure I don't violate any traditions and I do stay in line with them, I will not be directly addressing what piece of literature this is. But with that being said, it is the most basic piece of literature within my fellowship of choice. And we are on chapter 10, entitled More Will Be Revealed. Now, just like we had to do previously, I had to break this thing into two pieces, man. I couldn't cover it all in one episode. So this is part 1 of chapter 10. More will be revealed. And there's a reason for it, because there's so much within this chapter. And I love this chapter so much, because it's like the perfect way to close up the first 10 chapters of our most important piece of literature, in my opinion. It goes deeper into the spiritual development. It points out specific potential obstacles in our recovery journey. It reinforces the things that we need to do constantly. And it allows us to focus on future potential. Because as more continues to be revealed, that means that there's more for me to be looking forward to. And that's just like, and then because of what has then been revealed up to that point, that makes me more excited about what could be revealed. It's kind of typical addict thinking. It's like something good happened, so now I want more. And now something good happened on top of that, so now I want more. I love this chapter for so many reasons. But yes, I digress. Before we go into this chapter, we always got to talk about the spiritual principles, because the spiritual principles are so vital within our daily journey through recovery from the disease of addiction. So we always got to emphasize how important these spiritual principles are and always list them. Now, I will say, as I always say, these are my personal opinion of the spiritual principles that vibe with me most while reading through this chapter. There can be plenty of other spiritual principles that maybe I don't mention that vibe more with you. That's okay. But for me personally, the spiritual principles that just jump out and grab me within chapter 10 are humility, acceptance, open-mindedness, willingness, fellowship, love, accountability, and faith. So right when we get into it, I mean, the title of the chapter is More Will Be Revealed. And I will say, recovery is a very revealing process if I choose it to be. If I'm actually working a program of recovery, not simple abstinence. If I'm actually doing the 5 suggestions, which are, we talk about this a lot, but let's give you a refresher. The 5 suggestions that every addict hears when they walk into the rooms of recovery are: go to meetings, get a home group, get a sponsor, work some steps, and be of service. If I'm actually doing those 5 things and actually putting my effort into it, taking that action, I don't think it's possible to not have things revealed. I don't think it's possible for recovery not to be a very revealing process. And sometimes, I'll admit that, sometimes I don't want it to be as revealing as it is. Sometimes it can be a little painful, as we'll get into it a little bit deeper here. But that's one of the most beautiful things of it, is being able to have those layers of the onion peeled back. That's something you'll hear about a lot in the rooms of recovery, is having those layers of onion peeled back and working through our defects and working past our walls and our masks and our facades. The mask off. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Discovering who we really are. Not who I want to be, not who we think we are, not how we want people to see us, but at who we really are. It says in the literature, as our recovery progressed, we became increasingly aware of ourselves and the world around us. Our needs and wants, our assets and liabilities were revealed to us. And right off the top, I gotta say, this can be a terrifying realization for a lot of us. For a lot of us, we've been so dependent on substances for so long to keep us from thinking or feeling or acting. So when we start to get this awareness, it can be jarring. Like 100%, it can be jarring as fuck. Mentally, spiritually, emotionally, even physically. And it can make life seem truly overwhelming at times, especially early on in recovery, especially when we first get clean and we're walking into a room with wide eyes doing this whole, help me. It can get overwhelming. But it says in the literature, the program provides an opportunity for us to ease the pain of living through spiritual principles. Again, why I'm so fastidious about mentioning spiritual principles within this podcast, why I'm so focused on spiritual principles within the life of this addict in recovery. Because they truly are the what help us walk through that pain. It says right there in the literature. And because when we use these spiritual principles, they're what help us rebuild who we are as a human being. They're what allow us, as we've talked about with so many engineering analogies, they build that foundation. The spiritual principles are the workers that build that up. Okay, I just contradicted myself in that analogy. Scrap that whole analogy. Spiritual principles are fucking important.
That part.
How about that? We good? Okay, cool. Let's progress. And I truly cannot imagine what my life would have looked like if I didn't have a 12-step program of recovery in my life when I stopped using drugs. Like, if I just stopped using completely without having any spiritual principles or the fellowship or a sponsor or step work or service commitments or any of those elements, I don't know how I could have done that. I probably couldn't have. Probably why in the past, anytime I'd ever tried to stop using drugs, I was never able to stay stopped. Because there was this overwhelming feeling of emotions that now I'm experiencing without any chemical assistance or numbing abilities. As my sponsor always says, I had a hole in my soul. I'm really going to try to get him onto this podcast because I think you guys would very much enjoy having a nice little interview with my sponsor. I digress. But he always says that I had a hole in my soul. And to not be numbing that hole, to not have the step work or the spiritual principles within the steps to fill that hole, man, that seems impossibly horrible. That seems as the worst kind of hell. And I will say, those last couple years of my active addiction were absolute living hell. Because of all of the things that were going on inside of me. Because of the feeling of spiritual just bankruptcy. Because I had no emotional well-being at all. I had no middle ground or median for emotions. I had no way to deal with life on life's terms. So I used substances to deal with life on life's terms. And you're telling me that now I don't have those substances and I'm not working a program? I can't fathom that. Like, I know of people personally who are like, yeah, I just stopped using. Or I went to meetings for a little while and then I just stopped. And I will say from my personal experience over the last 3.5 years, I see a lot of those people go back to using. And for the very, very, very rare chance that it's a person who actually stays abstinent, I really wonder how are they doing mentally? How are they doing emotionally? How are they doing spiritually? I don't know. And for this addict, I'm not willing to find out. It's easier and much more beautiful for my sake of serenity to stay involved in the program, to stay focused on spiritual principles. The program, it says in the literature, we are very fortunate to have had this program. And I am eternally grateful to being introduced to the 12-step recovery model when I was in treatment. I am incredibly grateful for that because it says in the literature that by working the steps, we are rebuilding our fractured personalities. And for an addict like me, my personality fracture was like, oh my goodness gracious, if you dropped a plate glass window off of the fucking Burj Khalifa, we're back to the Burj Khalifa, and that just hits the ground and just explodes into a quadrillion, badrillion, marillion, petrillion pieces. Yes, I made up those words for emphasis. You're welcome. That part. That's where my personality was at. So by working those 12 steps, those fractured pieces can start to come back together. But I'll say that even if I had the 12 steps themselves, and even if I was developing those spiritual principles, which we said are the foundation, the building blocks, the workers, whichever analogy we were going to put onto this one, you guys can choose. This is like a pick your own analogy storybook on today's episode. You can pick whichever analogy works for you and leave whichever one doesn't. I'm wilding today. I'm sorry. I digress. But even if I had the 12 steps and the spiritual principles within them, having the fellowship, whatever your fellowship of choice is, but having the fellowship within the 12-step recovery model is the perfect place for more to be revealed. It says in the literature, the fellowship is a healthy environment for growth. As a fellowship, we love and cherish one another, supporting our new way of life together. Woo! That part. That shit right there. Hashtag cosign retweet. Yes, 100%. Let's fucking go. And that's why early on we emphasize so much, or was emphasized to me, and now I emphasize to people early on in their recovery. Go to meetings constantly. Get involved in the fellowship. Be a part of the herd. And that can be weird when you walk into a room and you don't know anybody and you see people talking with each other. And hopefully somebody with time comes over and engages with you. But sometimes we are all human. Sometimes we don't. Make that effort. Make that effort to say hi to one person, to get somebody's phone number, because it could fucking save your life. It genuinely could. And once you get those phone numbers, use them and get a fucking sponsor and work some fucking steps, because all of those elements work. I'm not sitting up here saying, do as I say, not as I do. I'm up here sharing my experience, strength, and hope on what has worked for this addict for the last 3.5 years plus. What has worked for tens of thousands of years worth of recovering addicts in the fellowship. Because it works. It says in the literature, the responsible, productive, drug-free lives of thousands of members illustrate the effectiveness of our program. Recovery is a reality for us today. Whew. I love that so much. I love that so much. And as that reality of recovery continues, I get to grow more. And the more that I grow, more is revealed. And then as more is revealed, the more that I grow. And then the more I grow, the more that's revealed. As you can see, it is this beautiful perpetual circle. For this addict, at least. Maybe that's not your story. Maybe that's not your experience, strength, and hope regarding the program or more being revealed. But for me personally, the more that's revealed, the more that I can grow. And the more that I can grow, the more that gets revealed. It says in the literature, as new things are revealed, we feel renewed. And I can tell you personally, that is an honest, truthful thing. I feel renewed as more things get revealed, as there's more challenges or areas for growth or potential for growth. I feel spiritually invigorated. I feel spiritually alive by having the opportunity to grow more. And for me, that growth is quantifiable in my life, whether it's in my thinking, whether it's in my replacement of defects with spiritual principles, whether it's when I approach a situation with a person or a place or an activity and I respond different than I ever have in my past. As we talked about before, that is quantifiable evidence that the 12-step program of recovery works in the life of this addict in recovery. And the more that I do that, the more I want of that. The more opportunity that I have to approach a situation and walk through it with grace and dignity in a way that I never have in the past. When in the past I instinctually reacted in defect, and now I'm able to respond with spiritual principles. As an addict like me, man, I get something I like, I want more of it. I get something I like, I want more of it. That feels good. Spiritually, that feels good. I want more of it. It says in the literature, what we want most is to feel good about ourselves. And getting to actually feel emotions, even when it's negative, is a gift. And I know there's people out there who are like, bro, fuck you talking about? Fuck are you talking about? You're telling me pain is a good thing? You're telling me pain is a positive? You're telling me sadness is a positive? I'm telling you, my personal experience, strength, and hope is that some of the best growth I have done in the last 3.5+ years of recovery has been as a result of pain or of sadness or as some emotion that prior to getting in recovery, I would have 100% quantified as negative. I would have said, nah, that's a horrible emotion. Let's go use over it. I'm not going to work through sadness. I'm going to go to fucking Sunny Slope and numb. I'm not going to work through pain or loss or grief. Fuck, you kidding? What? No. Because I didn't have any tools in my recovery tool belt to process those feelings or those emotions. So I couldn't see them as a positive. But truly, some of the best growth has been through working through negative, through unpleasant things, feelings, situations. It says in the literature that as we grow, we come to understand humility as acceptance of both our assets and our liabilities. We talked about this in episode 7 on step 7, where humility is such a key element of it. And that requires a true, honest self-assessment. Like we talked about earlier, not what I want to be, not what I want people to think I am, not what I've lied to myself to believe I am. No, it is an honest self-assessment. Also why we talked about step 6 was so difficult for me, because I actually had to look at myself. I actually had to peel that onion back and look at it with tears in my eyes. Just like what happens when you peel an onion. You see what I did there? That was kind of a dad joke. That was pretty corny. I apologize. Sorry. But I will say that as more is revealed, we must stay vigilant and action-oriented. For me personally, I can only share my experience, strength, and hope. But I have to stay action-oriented. I have to want to continue growing, which is why, as it says in the literature, the basics are always important to recovery. Because as we discussed before, I'm the type of addict who can fall back into old thinking, into old patterns. I can fall back into, when that action isn't happening, and I'm not staying vigilant about growing spiritually, that is a recipe for disaster. It says in the literature that we need to avoid old thinking patterns, both the old ideas and the tendency towards complacency. We cannot afford to become complacent because our disease is with us 24 hours a day. The addict thinking for me today, and I'll say this, now with over 3.5 years clean, my addict thinking, my old thinking patterns that might pop up, it's not immediately, hey, let's go use drugs. It's not immediately, hey, drugs would be a solution to that problem. My way of my addict thinking popping up is in smaller things. It's never that immediate jump off the building into a glass dick in my mouth or up into foil in front of my face. It's not to that level. It's a lack of honesty. Some laziness maybe. Or maybe just some self-sabotage or isolation. Or maybe my ego starts to get a little too big. Makes a little bit too long of an appearance. Or maybe I start to think I'm better than or less than. Or I start justifying or rationalizing. That's how this addict's thinking goes if I'm not staying vigilant to not be in complacency, to not be stagnant. We've talked about before the analogy. God, I love analogies on this podcast. But the analogy of recovery is like walking up a down escalator. That's how spirituality is too. If I'm not climbing up that escalator towards the spiritual element, towards those spiritual principles, those character defects are always waiting for me. And some days, it is a very slow down escalator. Some days, I don't have to be progressing spiritually much at all. And other days, that motherfucker is flying down. It's damn near an elevator. It's going so fucking fast. And I need to sprint my happy ass up that fucking escalator as fast as I possibly can. Because I know that if I stay stagnant, if I'm complacent about my spiritual program, and I stay in that thinking, and I don't take the actions that I have learned in recovery, that complacency is just going to get thicker and thicker. It's going to get thicker and thicker. And it says in the literature that complacency keeps us from goodwill, love, and compassion, plus slows our spiritual growth. And if I am not growing spiritually, if I am not making an effort to solidify spiritual principles in my life, negative things happen. It says in the literature, if we are unwilling to listen to others, we will deny the need for improvement. If I'm being lazy, I'm not, as it says in the literature, willing to do that one extra thing. And in times where that complacency is starting to grab hold, at times where it feels like your feet are glued in, molasses, that's like a sticky situation, right? Those are the times where, as it says in the literature, that extra effort is vital to our recovery. And that extra effort pays dividends when life on life's terms shows up. I'm going to say that again. That extra effort to develop spiritually pays dividends when life on life's terms shows up.
That part.
Because guess what, y'all? Just because you're clean, just because you're developing spiritually, just because you're not the same piece of shit junkie that you were or that I was, let me rephrase that. Just because I'm not that same piece of shit junkie that I was at that time, quote unquote, whatever, just because I'm not doing the things that I was doing to sustain my habit, life on life's terms is going to show up. You don't get into recovery and get like a get out of life free card, yo. That isn't how it works. Life on life's terms is going to show up. You're going to have I'm going to have the loss of a job. Yep. Loss of loved ones. Yep. Loss of finances. Yep. Loss of material things. Yep. Losses of friendships or relationships. It says in the literature, these are realities of life, and they don't just go away because we got clean. Those are always going to happen. Life on life's term is always going to show up. We don't have any control over that. We don't have control over the things the things that are beyond our control. But what we do have control of is how we respond when life on life's terms shows up. How we reach for a tool off of our recovery tool belt. Off of our tool belt, yes. When life on life's terms shows up. We have today, because we've developed this spiritual understanding, this spiritual foundation, these spiritual workers, whatever the analogy is, because we have that, we now have tools. We no longer have to go back to that thought process of, I need to numb. This is an icky situation. Now I have tools to walk through that situation. And I can personally say that because of constantly working on my spirituality and my spiritual principles and implementing them into my life, it reduces the pain of life on life's terms greatly. Because I've been through plenty of pain, plenty of discomfort, plenty of those feelings or those emotions that in the past I would have gone directly to using over. I've gone through plenty of those, just like any addict in recovery has. I'm not exempt. Maybe some of mine haven't been as bad as some. Maybe some of mine have been worse than some. But regardless, having that spirituality active in my life makes that pain less. It says in the literature, some of us, even after years of recovery, found ourselves jobless, homeless, or penniless. We entertained the thought that staying clean was not paying off, and the old thinking stirred up self-pity, resentment, and anger. No matter how painful life's tragedies can be for us, one thing is clear. We must not use, no matter what. We're going to hit with this and this.
That part.
We must not use no matter what. Because, and I know this is going to be difficult for a lot of people who are early on in recovery. When that's what we do, we use when life shows up. When things are good or bad or whatever the emotion is, we use, that's what we do. That's the mindset for an addict suffering from the disease of addiction. But I can truly tell you that the further that we get away from our last use, the further we get away from having a substance in our bodies, the less that we default to that. And it makes sense. It's just repetition. The more that we don't do something and do the spiritual alternative, the more that alternative becomes our go-to. Because using truly is never the solution, but in the moment, especially early on. It's difficult to remember that. You know, and it's been our go-to for so long. That's where our brains snap to. Even if you've had some time in the program, it can still snap to that. Because that's what the disease of addiction does. The disease of addiction is operating in our minds, wanting us to use drugs, period. Or use whatever the substance or process addiction or thing is out there that you use, that I could use to numb my feelings. Again, it does not need to be drugs. We're simply talking about drugs because that was my biggest affliction. That was my biggest symptom of the disease of addiction. But it could be anything. And defaulting to that always seems like the go-to. And I will say personally, in my opinion, the best case scenario that occurs if we use or we relapse to our process addiction or whatever it is that it is to not feel those feelings. Best case scenario is it's an incredibly temporary solution. And it might not even be that, honestly. Like, I've heard from plenty of people who have relapsed after being in the program that a body full of drugs and a brain full of the program do not mix. They just don't. So it might not even be a temporary solution to whatever that feeling is. And even if it is a temporary solution, once that substance wears off or once that action is complete, once whatever it is, that feeling is still going to be there. Life on life's terms is still going to be there. That's just how it is. It's going to be waiting. And now, in addition to whatever feeling it was that life on life's terms brought up that led to the use of whatever the substance or activity or whatever it was for that temporary solution, now that's still going to be there. Plus, you're going to have negative emotions on top of the relapse. It says in the literature that whatever pain we experience will pass through prayer, meditation, and sharing. We keep our minds off our discomfort and have the strength to keep our priorities in order. But going through any type of pain, especially early on, is dangerous because we haven't learned and developed our tool belt. This is why we emphasize how important keeping in contact with members of the fellowship is. How important going to meetings and sharing about that pain. To have people that you can talk to. It says in the literature, honest sharing can dispel our fears of relapse. That's why we have a burning desire time at every meeting to get it out, because as we say, pain shared is pain lessened. And it says in the literature that we grow through pain and recovery, and often find that such a crisis is a gift, an opportunity to experience growth by living clean. Before recovery, we were unable to even conceive of the thought that problems brought gifts.
That part.
And this was so true for me from so many elements of it. First off, like pain equals a gift. Fuck are you talking about? But when I can see someone walk through pain clean, unimaginable pain I've never even contemplated or thought of in any way, shape, or form, and I watch them walk through that situation clean, and I watch them share about that situation in a meeting, that gives me hope. That gives me hope that if I were to be in that situation, I could get through it clean. And if, God forbid, I am in that situation and I can get through it clean, then I can share about it and I can help show the next person that they can get through it clean. And I truly believe that there's no situation possible on this planet, at least I don't know about the rest of the cosmos, but on this planet, with the 8 billion people that are here, I truly do not believe that there is a possible situation or scenario or life on life's terms event that some addict on this planet hasn't made it through clean. We're just not that special. Whatever happens in anybody's life out there has probably happened in somebody else's life. And that other somebody out there probably made it, I would believe, made it through a clean. I believe that personally, which that is further evidence that there's truly no reason to ever use. And again, that can be a very confusing thing early on. Using seems like the only possible alternative. But I'm here to tell you, just like I've been told, just like others have been told prior to me and going back, as we just talked about, passing it forward, that we never have to use again. Even if we want to, even if the pain feels like we have to, we never have to use again. We might use again, but we never have to. That is our choice if we are going to. We never have to use again, no matter what shows up, no matter what pain happens, no matter how life on life's terms just prison stomps you or myself, we never have to use again. So that's where we're going to stop today. We still got a lot more to go into in this chapter. Honestly, that just for me, there's a lot of stuff actually where we stopped in terms of physical pain. There's a bunch in this chapter discussing, the possibly needing to use medication. I highly recommend checking that out. One of the things that constantly comes up, because this is a program of complete abstinence, is what about if I have a medical emergency? There's a lot of elements within that I didn't really want to get too specific into. But if you have questions about prescribed medication because of emergencies, surgeries, life on life's terms like that showing up, I highly recommend checking it out. It's on like page 102, I think, of the piece of literature that we're talking about. So we're going to finish up next week, part 2 of chapter 10, where a lot more gets revealed. Ooh, you see what I did there? More will be revealed next week. Yeah, just little teaser there. We're also going to tie it into what's personally been revealed in my life. So hope everybody joins us next week where we finish off chapter 10 of More Will Be Revealed. And that's what we got in the lab this week. Hopefully that added some clarity. Hopefully that gave some understanding. I really love this chapter, as you're going to find out next week when we go a little bit deeper. So that's what we got. Done with segment 1. Next segment on the show is entitled My Favorite Moment of the Week. Now, I will tell you, this is not focused on experience, strength, and hope of recovery. We're just talking about shit that's happened over the last week. In this case, over the last 2 weeks, because we missed a week in there, y'all. And come on now, you know how much I like talking about happy shit. You think we ain't going to talk about some shit from 2 weeks ago? Come on. Fuck out of here. I like talking about happy shit. This is just a part of the show where we talk about things that have happened over the last week. It might be something from pop culture. It might be something from news, sports, social media. Might just be from TikTok. Might just be a collection of incredibly adorable pit bull puppies. I really want a dog. Side note, I really want a dog. I digress. This is just for fun here. This is where we just talk about some fun stuff over the last couple weeks. And while we do not have an official Bang sponsorship yet, hopefully, Drink Bang, one day soon we will have an actual Bang sponsorship. Drink Bang. I don't know. Is that subliminal? Drink Bang. Maybe this will work. Maybe, I don't know. Drink Bang. Please drink Bang. Drink Bang. Drink Bang. Drink Bang. Drink Bang. All right, I digress. I fucked up. I fat-fingered a button there. I apologize. I tried to do too much. I need a producer. I need a damn producer for this show. I'm trying to do too much with my stream deck here. I'm trying to do too much. I digress. Anyway, first part, we always talk about my weekly fitness update. I don't have an update from last week, and I don't give a fuck about an update from last week because I am very excited to announce my update from this week. When I went and got on the scale prior to filming this episode, I have officially cracked 210 pounds. I am 209.8 pounds as of today. And I am so very happy about that. I've talked about this slow process, and I've really been sticking to my diet. I've really been trying to not eat like a fucking trash panda, and seeing that number under 210, I don't care if it was by 0.2 of a pound. I don't care if by drinking this Bang, I'm probably back above 210, but the way that my addict brain works gave me instant gratification in that moment, and I'm not cured. There's still character defects that work in there, and that one felt good. I will say I missed working out last night to watch the Ravens game. More on that momentarily. But I'm still super focused on core and cardio. I actually started taking part in the 72-mile in October challenge to run 72 miles over the month. Considering the fact that it is the 12th, I don't exactly know if that's going to occur, but we will attempt to continue it. And I got to say that I'm starting to possibly consider having some positive thoughts about my progression and how I'm looking, possibly. We'll see if it continues. just for today. I'm feeling all right about things. Still got things I got to work on, but I'm feeling all right. Also, I changed my meals. So we're back to chicken and fajitas and quinoa twice a day, every day. Hooray. Yeah, that's what we got. Be back next week to see if I'm back above 210 pounds, to see if I go and self-sabotage this progress with a gloriously garlic butter crusted Domino's. I didn't even have to bring up food on this episode. I mean, y'all didn't even have to do it. I'm doing it. Like, I'm fucking myself up here. I'm probably going to get habit tonight. Probably. Also, drink bang. All right. Got to do our TV wrap up. We do this because there's a lot of good shows on TV, and I like watching TV, and I like talking about the stuff I watch on TV. So we're going to do a wrap-up. Again, I apologize. I'm trying to condense all this because we got 2 weeks' worth of stuff to cover, and I don't want this to be a 5-hour-long episode. But we got to talk about a few things. First off, I have officially jumped on the bandwagon and started Squid Game. If you don't know what Squid Game is, you apparently don't have Netflix, don't get on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or Twitter or watch NFL football where dude literally Stephon Diggs has a pair of custom-made Squid Game cleats. But if you don't know what it is, it's a Korean show on Netflix, #1 show in like all of the cosmos currently. I really started watching it, I'll admit it, just to not be so lost with memes. I'll admit that, because my Instagram timeline was like, fuck is this giant robot girl? Yo, why we got a cookie that people are trying to break open? What the fuck is this dude got rocks in his hand? Like, I'll admit that. So that's why I started it. And I'm so glad I started it, because it is very, very well done, in my opinion. Is it like incredible TV? I wouldn't say that, but it is at a very well built up journey up to this point. I'm 6 episodes in. Low key, that marble episode had me fucked up. I'm not gonna spoiler alert it if you haven't seen it, but that marble episode had me fucked up. Fucked up. Anyway, I digress. Next thing we got to talk about is Marvel's What If. We're doing that every week because I really like the show, and it's officially done now. We got to talk about episode 8 for a second. I'm not going to go back and live through too much of that. But the episode 8 was entitled, What If Ultron Won? And we actually got to see the Infinity Stone Ultron, how he became Vision, and then use his Mind Stone to cut fucking Thanos in half. Apparently that could have happened in the actual MCU, and we could have just eliminated both Infinity War and Endgame if Vision had been a little bit less friendly and a little bit more, exposed to the internet and wanting to end civilization. Because he could have just straight cut Thanos in half. We wouldn't have lost fucking Black Widow. We wouldn't have lost Tony. Come on. Why didn't you do that, Vision? Damn it. I gotta say, in that episode, we got another Galactus nod Easter egg when Infinity Ultron literally eats a whole fucking galaxy. Tell me that wasn't a Galactus nod. Tell me it wasn't. You can't, because it was, motherfucker, as far as I'm concerned. Also, we got to see the Watcher get in on the action, like he stopped watching and started doing, which I kind of didn't love, since we had no frame of reference on what his abilities were. So, I don't really love that. We don't know, is he powerful? Can he fuck up this full Infinity Stone Ultron, or is he just going to get beat to shit? I don't know. Didn't love that. I did really like that it continued, everything from episode 7. Plus, we got Black Widow with the Red Guardian shield. That was cool. And then we get into episode 9, which is the season finale. Apparently. The episode was called, What If the Watcher Broke His Oath? And essentially, it's what if he stopped watching and he inserted himself into multiple different timelines in the multiverse, and he goes around and chooses a squad of essentially intergalactic Avengers. And what did they call them? Guardians of the Multiverse. Nice. I fucked with that. And it was cool because it went back through the whole season. And where the first 5 or 6 episodes of the show seemed 100% self-contained no carryover storyline. This actually brought it all together. Plus, we got Gamora. Apparently, we didn't get to see her episode. She was supposed to have an episode in there with Iron Man, but because of COVID, it just didn't happen. So we got Gamora, part of it as well. And we officially got one more episode with Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa Star-Lord. And it was wonderful. And tears were shed knowing it was his last episode. And it also really sucks because apparently, according to Disney, they wanted to develop an entire What If series of what if T'Challa was Star-Lord with Chadwick Boseman. And my script just says sad face emoji because that didn't happen. Overall, the episode was all right. Overall, the show was all right. It's been confirmed there will be a second season. The show was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed these different possibilities and, you know, getting to relive some of the MCU classic moments from a different perspective or because of a different set of variables. That was cool. Overall, it was fun, but definitely not on the same level as WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or Loki. Just wasn't. Definitely number 4 on the list of Disney Plus shows, in my opinion. Next up, we have Hawkeye, and I am fucking excited for that.
That part.
All right. Got to move on to Archer season 12 finale.
Phrasing?
There's no reason to say phrasing there, but I just wanted to hear Archer's voice. There was only 8 episodes in this season. Only 8 episodes. And after giving us 13 episodes for like 6 seasons, it's kind of fucked up. I expect there to be more than 8, even though the last few have only been 8. But there was some great dialogue in this episode. There was a line where Archer refers to one of the characters as Beta Cuckington. Well done. Also got some of Eric Andre, the comedian. I guess he's a comedian. I mean, he's kind of a gross out artist, if you will. He has been on the show this season, and he got some nice character growth. Plus, the scene at the end with Lana and Archer's relationship kind of coming full circle. It's pretty beautiful. But the best moment of it was the ending. You know, we discussed previously that Jessica Walter, who voices Mallory Archer, passed away at 80 years old after filming the majority of season 12. So the whole time I was wondering how they were going to tie this into it. You know, what were they going to do to essentially write Mallory off of the story, off of the show after, 12 seasons. And what they did, in my opinion, was beautiful. They gave Jessica Walters an amazing send-off as Mallory. Her whole letter to Sterling, officially passing the torch, and then to have it end with Mallory and her in the TV show husband Ron, who was also her in the real life husband, who also has passed away. Man, tears were pouring. Tears were fucking pouring, man. And it caught me out of nowhere because I wasn't expecting them to do it how they did it, and then they did it, and then I cried a lot. Very well done. It's been renewed for a 13th season, so hooray for that. Also, both episodes of What We Do in the Shadows were quite well done. Very much enjoyed them. Love the show. Hope it gets 13 more seasons at least. But we don't have enough time to talk about it. We have too much to cover in this episode. So we're going to move on, but watch that show. Next up, we had our final pre-convention meeting. Had our last regional meeting before our regional convention. The convention officially starts Friday, October 15th at 12 p.m. down at the Doubletree Hotel in Scottsdale, Arizona. It will be going on from 12 p.m. Friday until probably 3 p.m. on Sunday. Constantly, literally 24 hours a day, the convention will be going there. If you have never been to a recovery convention, I highly recommend coming and checking it out. It is free to anyone who wants to show up. We definitely appreciate if you pay for a registration, but it's not required. So if you just want to come through and see what a recovery convention's all about, whether you're in recovery or not, come through. And if you see me there, say what's up. On Friday, I will be wearing my shirt that says Triple Extra, so you will be able to recognize me, even though I will have a mask on. All right. Hope to see everybody there. Next off, we ain't going to talk about it much, simply because I didn't get to see it, the whole thing. I only got to see the highlights of it. But Fury Wilder 3 from Las Vegas was apparently one of the best fights in decades. for sure one of the best fights in decades in the heavyweight division. Like I said, I didn't buy the pay-per-view. I had my son this weekend, so I didn't think the best thing would be to, spend $80 and have him and his 3-year-old mind watch two grown men beat each other to a pulp. I guess that's good parenting that I didn't do it. I guess. I don't know. I digress. So I didn't get to see the whole thing, but the highlights that I saw looked fucking ridiculous. Knockdown after knockdown on both sides, flurries of punches from both people, and Tyson Fury retains his heavyweight title with an 11th round knockout. And the craziest part of it isn't that he won that, because the dude's 6'9", 270 pounds, incredibly fast, great boxing skill. The craziest part is that after going 11 rounds with fucking Deontay Wilder, he then proceeded to go to Club Hakkasan in Las Vegas and party the whole night with Steve Aoki. My fucking cardio is done after 25 minutes on a heavy bag with nobody punching me back. And this dude just fought. That's nuts. Shout out to him. Also, shout out Phoenix Mercury in the WNBA Finals, currently down 0-1. But I believe that Griner and Taurasi and Skylar Diggins, we gonna win it. Let's go. Let's go. Also, gotta give a shout out on Instagram to this dude. His page is @Filayy. Filayy. He does play-by-play sound effect dubs over sports clips, and they are hilarious. They kind of remind me of like bad lip reading videos that have been around for a while, but this dude is funny as hell. And we got to get into our NFL recap. We have to. I don't care if I lose a couple people here, because you're going to come back, or at least just stick through this, because this is exciting. First off, the fucking Arizona Cardinals are 5-0. 5-0 after a great defensive game against the 49ers. Definitely was J.J. Watt's best game of the season. There were 4 different fourth down stops. One of them by Isaiah Simmons came in looking like a fucking train, just trucked into Trey Lance right at the goal line. Straight gorgeous. First time the Cardinals are 5-0 since the 70s, when they weren't even the Arizona Cardinals. Sadly, Chandler Jones just hit the COVID list. So we probably won't have him against the Browns, and the Browns game is going to be tough, simply because the Browns lost an absolute shootout against the Chargers, and they're going to be rather angry, I would guess. Baker Mayfield, if he takes a second away from filming commercials, will probably be chucking the ball a ton. Hopefully all to Odell Beckham Jr. so I can get those fantasy points. Whatever, I digress. Also, Chandler Jones, I get you're on COVID restriction for the next however many days. Can you call your brother, bro? Can you call your brother and maybe give him some brotherly advice? Like, talk to him? Because my God, John Jones needs some fucking help, bro. I mean, he's one of us. So I want to try to be there and support him, but bruh, like, there's only so many things that can occur before it's just like, nah. And after this last arrest, not even after the last arrest, but after the police report came out, I can't do it. I can no longer support John Jones. He has officially crossed into that hate the human, but appreciate the art level. In my opinion, he's reached that Kevin Spacey, Michael Jackson, R. Kelly, whatever status. I'm not quantifying his crimes or alleged crimes in any way, shape, or form. I'm not comparing to that level, but I'm just saying from my personal perspective on this, I can no longer support the dude. I can no longer like the dude, but I can appreciate the art, which sucks because he's been my favorite fighter for the last 15 years, 10 years, whatever it's been. But I digress. Also, while we're talking about football, even though we just went off on an MMA tangent, got to give a shout out to the Lions, man, for another incredible, gritty, well-played last-second loss. I don't know how y'all do it. Coach Campbell, he's having trouble even doing it. He was straight in tears at the podium, and I don't blame him one bit. Also, I'm officially in last place in both my fantasy leagues. Since our last podcast, I took a combined 4 L's. Since last week, yep. I'm 2-8 overall, and I think I'm just going to blow everything up. I think I'm going to go straight taco from the league, and I'm just going to fucking blow everything up. And I can't do worse than I am. I can't. So then we get to the Ravens, who were 3-1 after last week, going up against 1-3 Indianapolis Colts at home in Baltimore on Monday Night Football. They started the game as a 7-point favorite. I'm sorry, they went into the week 7-point favorite. It climbed up to a 7.5-point favorite. They were going for the all-time record of consecutive 100-yard rushing games. The crowd was rocking. I literally skipped the gym so that I could be there and watch the game. And apparently because I mentioned it on this podcast. That's what that's what my addict ego wants to believe. But because I mentioned it, the Ravens are continuing every single home game before lineups to do the Omar whistle as an acknowledgement and a nod to Michael Kenneth Williams. I just got goosebumps. That makes me so happy. I will say you're welcome, Ravens fans, because the Clean and Filthy podcast's host is the reason that happened. Delusions of grandeur, but what can I say? So everything is lining up. Everything is lining up. We got the fucking Omar whistle. We got a home 7.5-point favorite against a 1-3 team going for a rushing record. Everything's lined up for this Ravens win, right? Everything. Except that the Ravens forgot to show up for 3 whole fucking quarters. Started the game. Defense looks horrendous. Give up an 80-something yard touchdown. Secondary was just getting mauled. The full first 3 quarters, really the whole game, honestly. The secondary was getting mauled. Marcus Peters not being in there was very evident more than any other game, in my opinion, this season. Horrible penalties that actually put points on the board for Indianapolis. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Marlon. Marlon Humphreys, I'm looking at you. I love you, bro. I appreciate your after-game Instagram live streams. I appreciate them. But I'm looking at you. Because the end of the first half, bro. Also, the offense looked like trash. First 4 possessions, all punts. Really looked, in my opinion, like they were trying for the record of rushing yards as opposed to just taking the game as it came. Taking what the defense gave them. And then Lamar, man, his ball security at times scares me. Well, it scares me. And it happened again. He fumbles on the 3-yard line on 1st and goal. And then after the ridiculous defensive play that was overturned and blah, 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 the Colts still score a touchdown. So at that point, Ravens are down 22-3. My mom even wrote, and she was like, yeah, what's happening with the Ravens? I was like, I don't know. And then, with 2 minutes left in the third, finally, the Ravens remembered that they were playing a game. And they got a touchdown. Beautiful. My mother wrote me. She's like, hey, that's something. I'm like, nah, think it's too little too late. They're just not playing with intensity. They're just not doing it. And then after giving up a field goal, Indianapolis got a field goal. The Ravens proceeded to score 22 points unanswered, including 2 touchdowns and 2 two-point conversions to Mark Andrews. That's like a throwback right there. 22 twos. Jay-Z's first album, Reasonable Doubt. Hopefully somebody out there knows what I'm talking about. Go listen to that song. But there were so many twos involved there. 2 touchdowns, 2 two-point conversions, 22 twos. Let's go. Mark Andrews single-handedly almost got me a win in my one league. I was down by like 30-something points. No, I was doing like 50-something points. And he ended up scoring like 37 points. So I almost won because of that. But the only reason that any of that was possible, that we were able to knock off those 22 or the however many consecutive points at the end and actually have a chance to win this game, was because my favorite moment of the week was all 6'8", all 300 pounds of motherfucking Calais Campbell, former Cardinal, coming through and blocking a field goal in the fourth quarter that gave Baltimore a chance. And ooh-wee, did they capitalize on that chance. And they run down and get a touchdown, and now it is tied up. And thankfully, Indy's kicker missed a field goal as time expired from 47 yards, and we go to overtime. And what happens in overtime? The Ravens win the toss and proceed to walk down the field with a 10-play drive for a walk-off touchdown to Hollywood Brown. Let's go. All-time Lamar Jackson performance. The QB who can't pass threw for a franchise record 442 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. He was the first quarterback in league history to complete 85% of his passes in a 400-yard game. He was the first player in NFL history with 400 passing yards, 4 touchdown passes, no interceptions, and 50 yards rushing. He had the highest completion rate in a 40-pass game in NFL history, 86%. He went 37 out of 43. That's fucking nuts. Absolutely. One of the best, most exciting quarter plus of football in history, regardless of my Ravens love, regardless of that. It was absolutely incredible. And afterwards, everybody's wiling out, hyped out, loving it. I got to give a shout out to Coach Harbaugh. He went over and grabbed the field goal kicker, Blankenship. I don't know. I have him on my fantasy team. I should know how to pronounce his last name. After the game, and had a conversation with him, which I thought was a classy move because that was the reason that they lost. But whatever. At the end of the day, Ravens win, top of the division. Cardinals won, top of the division. Your boy lost twice, bottom of both divisions. I guess I'm fine with that. If I have to stay worst in my fantasy leagues for the rest of the season, and the Ravens and the Cardinals continue the best in their leagues, I am on board for that. So I'm sorry that we went football again. I am. But the amount of joy that I was feeling after so much anxiety, I felt like my heart was going to pop through my throat. I could not do it. So, you know what? I'm not even sorry. If this becomes an unofficial Ravens podcast, whatever. I'm here for it. Let's go. Whatever. Hopefully, at least if you care nothing about football, this was entertaining. Hopefully. And maybe it'll get you interested in football. And then you'll become a Ravens fan. Hooray. All right. I absolutely promise that next week's episode will not have my favorite moment of the week being football. There's nothing that could occur within the NFL between now and then that would actually get me to having that be my favorite moment of the week over the convention. Probably. We'll see. I hopefully I just didn't like put negative energy into the world, and now that's not going to be favorite moment. But whatever. I digress. Let's go. That's what we got for my favorite moment of the week. If you have anything that occurs over the next 7 days that you want to have discussed and hear the 12 to 24 cents of me, I don't ever just give 2 cents. I give a lot more than that because I'm a wordy motherfucker. Send it over to your boy. Again, on any social media platform. You can always send it over, Matthew at CleanAndFilthyPodcast.com. And we will see y'all next week with more of my favorite moment of the week. Now, it is time for our next segment of the show, entitled Ask an Addict. Drink bang, drink bang.
It's time to Ask an Addict with your host, Matthew M.
That's right, y'all. It is time for our third segment of the show entitled Ask an Addict. This is the part of the show where the resident addict of the Clean and Filthy podcast answers questions submitted by our listeners and our viewers. They can be questions about anything. They do not have to be recovery related. This is a Reddit AMA. That is what this is. Why did I just pronounce Reddit like that? Or this is a Reddit AMA. I don't know what the fuck that was. I digress. But this is an Ask Me Anything. I like answering questions. I like sharing my perspective on things. So if you have a question that you would like to have answered on the Clean and Filthy podcast, send it over to me anywhere that you like on social media, or email at Matthew@cleanandfilthypodcast.com, and your question might be answered on air like these questions are. First question says, why do I hate the rapper Future so much? Why do I hate Future so much? I've had a lot of Future hate on this show. I admit that. I've had people at me about it. You're going to have some more ats to go at me. Here's why why I dislike Future so much. Because Future is
garbage. Absolute trash.
That part.
I'm done. That's all. That's the answer. No, we're done. Oh, you wanted more? Oh, okay. I'm just fucking with y'all. Seriously, though, there are numerous reasons. First and foremost, my number one reason, I have a numbered checklist here for y'all. Number one reason is because I love hip-hop for lyrical content and lyrical skill/ability. That wordplay. And Future has neither. This motherfucker said, I'm too sexy for my syrup. Yes, he said that. He said that. I was Googling his cringiest lyrics last night because I don't know Future's lyrics enough to be able to pull them off the top of my head. I couldn't pick one specific one that would be more cringy than that. So that's the one you guys got. But there are so many. And I understand it's not completely his fault. He's a trap artist. Trap artists don't really require lyrical content or lyrical skill/ability. It just doesn't. I get that. And I know that's partly on me because I don't really like trap artists. I just don't. I'm just not into that. Number two reason is I love hip-hop that I can understand the lyrics to. I don't like hip-hop that sounds like the motherfucker rapping has marbles in his mouth. Marbles in his mouth, plus some auto-tune, plus horrible ad-libs, plus basic ass level rhyme scheme, all on top of a triplet cadence, is not the vibe. And don't tell me that the reason he sounds like that, or the reason he doesn't have as incredible lyrical genius level wordplay is because he's from Atlanta. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Because Andre 3000, Big Boy, and one half of my shirt of Run the Jewels, my man Killer Mike, are all from Atlanta. None of them sound like they got marbles in their mouth. And all of them can do great storytelling, wordplay, period. Period. Don't come at me with that. That's bullshit. He's just trash. Third reason I'm not a fan of him is because I'm not a fan of artists that everyone tells me I'm supposed to be a fan of. Like, I'll admit, I'll jump on a bandwagon of something if after I listen to it, I'm like, wow, okay, that was really well done. I fucked up. I should have been here sooner. But when everybody's telling me to listen to somebody and then I listen to them and I'm like, bro, this is shit. And then people come at me like, how could you say this is shit? This is not shit, sir. You should like this. You need to like this. He's so good. Tell me, y'all, what's so good about Future? I'm asking y'all, please come at me. At me on Twitter. Hit me up on any social media. What is so good about Future? How is he any different than any other rapper talking about selling drugs, fucking hoes, driving expensive cars, using drugs, and making money? How is he any different? What is special about him? Like, I'm genuinely asking, because to me, he sounds like every other trash-ass, marble-mouthed, fucking garbage artist that's out there. So tell me, Abby, please at me. I want to know. I'm trying to engage in a dialogue with y'all. So let me know. Drake, I mean, like, everything that he's on. The Drake's worst album was with Future. Great songs with Jay-Z. You add Future to them. Kind of trash. I don't feel like Future adds anything to any song he is on. And I will say, this has nothing to do with the rampant, like, misogynistic lyrics or, sexist lyrics or nonstop drug use in his lyrics. And that's a part of hip hop. I accept that. And I mean, one of my favorite, absolute favorite artists is Pusha T. So obviously drug talk is not a disqualifying factor. But overall, what is so impressive? I'll admit he has some solid beats, and he has a few songs that I actually have in my playlist here on my phone. One of them, Turn on the Lights. That's a solid banger. It's a fire beat. Definitely vibe with it. Lyrically, it's shit. Song Bitches Love Me, featuring Wheezy and Drake. Thankfully, he only does the verse on it. And even the verse is corny. I'm on that good cushion alcohol. I got some damn bitches I can call. Like, fuck is that? I will say, the Mask Off remix with Kendrick. The beat is incredible. And Kendrick's verse is fire. But that song would have been so much better if Future wasn't on it. The motherfucking hook for that song is literally Percocet, Molly Percocet. Percocet, Molly Percocet. Really? Like that's what you came up with. The best trap artist ever. The most influential trap artist. One of the most influential artists of 2000 and the 2010s. On one of his best songs ever. The hook was Percocet, Molly Percocet. Like, I'm sorry. I digress. Even songs that also are pretty solid, with specifically have The Weeknd, both Low Life and Coming Out Strong. Those are good. No, I won't even say they're good. They're listenable because of The Weeknd. But guess what? They would have been better without Future. In my opinion. This is my humble opinion. Please tell me why I'm wrong. Please tell me why I'm wrong. He's trash. Period. Someone at me. Somebody hit me up and let's have the discussion. Show me good lyrics. Show me good wordplay. Show me anything he's ever done that's even in the same ballpark as like the worst verse Notorious B.I.G. has ever done. That's even close to the worst verse Kendrick's ever done. Show me that, and I will happily get on this podcast and further discuss it. But until that occurs, he's fucking trash. All right, that's what we got. End of question 1. Next question. I like this question a lot. Says, what is one recovery phrase that you've heard that you don't vibe with? So anybody who's been in the rooms of recovery knows that phrases are a thing. We have so many phrases within the fellowship. That's just what we do. You know, we say just for today, or don't leave before the miracle happens, or meeting makers make it, or you can't save your face and your ass at the same time, or more will be revealed, or let go and let God. I could go on for hours. And these phrases in the rooms are there because they're truthful. And I vibe with the majority of them. Maybe I didn't vibe with them at first. We talked about my apprehension to the term let go and let God originally, and how I've warmed up to that. And maybe this phrase I'm about to say that I don't vibe with, maybe at some point I will. But just for today, the phrase that I do not vibe with is the saying of, my worst day clean is better than my best day loaded. Again, loaded means using drugs. And for me personally, this just isn't my story. We've talked about this before on this podcast, that this is not my story. I was not one of those people who immediately drugs didn't work for. There was a period of my life where using was enjoyable, or at least for some level it worked for me. I had some times in my using that had rather positive memories attached to it, or at least what I can remember of it. So that phrase doesn't really vibe with me. And when I think about that, I did have positive memories associated with some of my using times. That can be a scary place for an addict like me. When I start glamorizing or rationalizing or saying, I only had a problem with this substance, that can be difficult in a scary place. So I understand the reasoning within the phrase. I understand that the point of the phrase is just trying to emphasize how amazing being clean truly is, which I will not counter at all. I completely agree. Being clean is fucking amazing. And I wouldn't trade my life of using for the life I have in any way, shape, or form. But the overall phrase of my worst day in recovery is better than my best day using, that just doesn't vibe with me. So that's my answer to that question. Next question. You thought we already had enough Marvel conversation? Nah, son. We got one more question of it. Great question here. It says, what is my top 5 favorite MCU films? Now, I have to put the caveat in there. We are not going to be including Avengers films within this because I'm sorry. If you have me have to put Avengers 1, Infinity War, and Endgame into a top 5, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. So we're going to remove the Avengers movies. I will say, of the 4 Avengers movies, 3 of them are top 5. But as we've discussed before with my top 5s, they never are only 5. So in no specific order, my top 5 favorite favorite MCU films are Iron Man 1, Captain America 2 Winter Soldier, Black Panther, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Captain America 3 Civil War, and Thor Ragnarok. That's my top 5. Yes, the numbers of my top 5 were off and there were 6, but that's my top 5. Deal with it. It's my fucking podcast. That's what we're doing here. Deal with it. Because I'm sorry, I can't pull one of those 6 films out. I just can't. I can't. Like, depending on my mood, maybe I would be able to, but then when I watch that film, immediately it goes right back where it had been. So I can't do it. I can't. I'm sorry. You guys got a top 5 there that includes 6 films and none of the other top 3. So really, you got a top 5 that had 9 films in it, and you're welcome. You ask for something, I give you more.
That part.
All right, y'all. So that's what we got for this segment of Ask an Addict. If you have any other questions that you want to have answered right here on the Clean and Filthy podcast, make sure send them over any social media. Send them over on Matthew at CleanAndFilthyPodcast.com or send it through the website. Any of those things, send it on over, and I will happily answer it on air. So it is almost time to close up, y'all. But you know we can't end the show without them clean time shout outs. That's right, though. That's right, y'all. This is the part of the show where we recognize anybody who has celebrated a universally recognized milestone within the 12-step recovery model. That can be a newcomer, which is anybody with 29 days clean or less, 30 days clean, 60 days clean, 90 days clean, 6 months clean, 9 months clean, 1 whole year clean, 18 months clean, or multiple years clean, which is 2 or more. Plus, we also like to give them big number shout outs. So if you get to 100 days, 1,000 days, 5,000 days, anything like that, send it over to me and I would be happy to give you a shout out on air. I love doing clean time. It's fun as fuck for me. So please send me over with what clean time you celebrate in between now and next week's episode at 5 p.m. and we will get you added to the list. And like I said, we've got 2 weeks worth of clean time shout outs to do. You know we couldn't miss giving these shout outs. So we're going to go over last week's shout outs first, and then we're going to go over this week's shout outs. So last week, first and foremost, as a newcomer, we've got Sophie. Hell yeah. Stay. Next, as a newcomer, we've got Zoe. C. Stay. Next, with 30 days clean, we've got Tom. Hell yeah. Then with 60 days clean, we've got Kinley. Well done. with 90 days clean, we've got Izzy. Hell yeah. Then with 6 months clean, we're going out to Vegas for my boy Rhett. You get half a boop. For those who don't know, we give out them boops for each year, so don't be alarmed. Next, with 9 months clean from Twitter, we've got Dennis. Hell yeah. And then with 1 whole year clean, and I've seen this entire process for both of these people, so big shout out to them. But with 1 whole year clean, we've got Mike. And with 1 whole year clean, we've got Oldies. Hell yeah, well done both y'all. Then with 2 years clean, we're going to Facebook for Jamie G. Then with 4 years clean, we've got Tony. And then with 12 years clean, we're going to Twitter for George. Well done. Now we're going to Instagram for an Instagram personality we've referenced on this show before. With 19 years clean, we've got Tank S. Finish it off for me there. Well done, brother. And finally, with 34 years clean, it's pretty crazy. Both this week and the previous week, we got somebody with 34 years. But first off, with 34 years clean, we've got Marty L. Let the buttons finish it off. That's got to be 34. Well done. Congratulations, everybody who picked up Clean Time last week. And now let's get to this week, y'all. You thought you were getting out of here with 1 set of boops? Nah, son, we going for 2. Let's go. First up, as a newcomer this week from Twitter, we've got Paul. Well done, stay. Next up, with 9 months clean, we've got my sponsee brother Todd O. You get 3/4 of a boop. And then with 1 year clean, we've got Justin, formerly known as Gumby. Boop. Well done. Any addict, brother. And next up, with 4 years clean, we've got my man Cody. Boop, 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 boop. Then with 4 years clean, we're heading out to Vegas for Mark S. Boop, 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 boop. Next, we're going to Facebook for Arturo P, celebrating 10 years clean. Boop, 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 boop. Well done, double digits. Next up, we're staying in Facebook, and we've got Barbie K with 12 years clean. Boop, 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 boop. Reload, reload, reload. Next up, we're going to Vegas for 18 years clean. We got my man Junior. Boop, 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 boop. One more. Well done. And then finally, with 34 years clean as well, we've got Karen P. Boop, 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 boop. I'm all out. We got to just let them take over. Thank you, Kendrick. Thank you, Travis Scott. Thank you, designer. Because I'm on empty. There we go. One more. Pop, 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 pop. Well done. Well done. Congratulations to everybody who celebrated Clean Time today. If you didn't, don't use, keep coming back, and guess what? You will. And remember that every single day clean is a successful day.
That part.
Fucking facts.
That part, that part, that part, that part.
All right, y'all. Well, I hope everybody had as much fun today as I did. It felt so good being back on the mic. I missed not being here last week. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Again, episode 34, pretty damn crazy. Hopefully you heard something you liked. Hopefully you come back next week. And if you did, please make sure to download, share, like, subscribe, retweet, all of those things. Again, thank you so much to Valentino Khan, Alice in Wonderland, and Mad Decent Records for allowing us to use anything as our theme music. Thank you, everybody, for being here, for the love, the support, the constant just compliments and help and all of that. I really, really appreciate it. If nobody's told you today that they love you, I love each and every one of you, and I thank you so much for being here with me and being a part of this journey. Remember, what I can't do alone, we can do together. Let's go. Next week, 5 p.m., baby.
I just wanna feel anything.